my friends, and welcome to episode 32 of the Kiss Army Nation podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Pasquale Veri.
And I am Claudius Pera. Welcome to the show, everyone.
So, with the end of the road around the corner, we as Kiss fans find ourselves looking back in retrospect at our lives within this amazing Kiss world. Our guest today released a book at a time when Kiss fans needed it most. A book that captures really moments in time, allowing fans to relive their KISStory in pictures and print. Kiss Army, the author of Kiss on Tour, Mr. Alain Bellicha. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi, it's nice to see you all. Thank you very much for inviting me today.
Hey, and congratulations on this incredible book. It's really, really something else.
Fantastic.
Oh, man.
Unbelievable.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it.
What a great piece.
You know, something interesting about this book, it's that I can't imagine everything that, went through in creating this book, all the content that this book has. I mean, just going through it, I don't have enough time in the day to go through it all. I can't imagine putting it all together. It's really, really something else.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I love Kiss. I hope it shows when you flip through the book. And the idea was to compile rare stuff or stuff we've seen before that triggers happy memories and find hidden gems here and there. And just for the simple love of Kiss, nothing more, nothing less.
Well, let me tell you, it's mission accomplished.
Thank you.
As you all know, this book is sold out. So this episode is not about promoting the book, although we would love to, and we're going to continue doing that. But you can check out some great interviews with Alain on the Kiss FAQ podcast, and also Three Sides of the Coin. Those two interviews were amazing. So where you guys go into every single detail. So this episode will have a different view, a different approach. We will focus on reliving key moments in KISStory through Alain's book, Kiss on Tour 74 to 83. So we're going to take the book as a starting point to kind of go through specific moments in KISStory. So who better than having Alain with us? So again, welcome to the show, Alain.
Thank you.
So Alain, we're going to play a little game. And what we're really going to be talking about is the phenomenon that is Kiss. But the question is, that phenomenon, was it calculated or was it just a fluke? So what we did was we took quotes from each era in the book. We felt that these quotes were really representative of the era. And we're going to discuss each era in relation to each of the quotes. Does that make sense?
Okay.
All right. Fine. So, Claudio, get us started.
Okay. We're going to take the first one from Alain Bellicha himself, and he says, Kiss on Tour, one phrase, three short words that convey so much to us, the Kiss Army. Memories, wishes, dreams, regrets, visions, colors, sounds, smells, smoke, fire, blood, sweat, tears, smiles, joy, and of course, merch. So, Alain, your quote really captures the spirit of this book and what it means to be in the Kiss Army. So let's begin by talking a little about you. So from your perspective, what is so special about being in the Kiss Army?
I've been trying to figure that out for more than 40 years. I've been obsessed with Kiss since 1979 when I was a little kid. And I remember, I've read a lot of interviews and books as much as anybody else. And more than an army, I think Kiss is a mania. And a mania is a condition. It's a mental condition that causes you unreasonable euphoria, very intense moods, and delusions. And I think that's the perfect definition of what being a diehard Kiss fan is. We love Kiss as much as if it was our band, and we're pissed off when they make the wrong decisions. Yeah. We're excited when we see something we love. And we take it to heart way more than we should for just a rock band. So it's a very unique interest and attachment to these four gentlemen. And I really can't explain why we are so obsessed, why I make books, why you make podcasts, why people do so many things about KISS, but it's fun.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And, it's interesting you mentioned, because there's so many things actually happening now, even though, the band can be considered not to be so active, but what the fans are doing these days, it's unstoppable. Books, podcasts, shows, tribute bands, everything. It's like Kiss Mania. It doesn't stop ever.
That's true. It's unstoppable.
So, and in your case, I think that you took a step further by writing some books that are actually today and a big part of KISStory. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about other books that you've written?
Sure. Well, the first book I published was called The Illustrated Guide to KISS in Japan, and that was to cover the history of KISS in Japan, where I live. I've been living in Japan for over 20 years. And the story starts in 1975 when they are signed by Victor. Well, they're distributed by Victor Musical Industry through Casablanca until the end of the road, 2019. So 1975 to 2019 was a full overview of the history of KISS in Japan related to the discography, the memorabilia, the tours, the concerts. That was my first big book, 2015, I did the second edition, 2019. Then I focused more specifically on other Japanese story landmarks. I did a book called KISS Takes Tokyo, 1977. I did one called Budokan 78. I did another one called Originals Plus One. That was really focusing on Japan and the archives of Music Life magazine. And the last one was not Japan, was the whole first 10 years of KISS on Tour, which was, of course, as the title is self-explanatory, KISS on Tour. So I've done self-published 5 books on KISS.
Wow, that's impressive. That's really impressive. And I guess why the connection with Japan? Because you live there, and I guess you have access to a lot of material, or because Japan was a big milestone in the KISStory, right? So
yes, well, several factors. The obvious one is I live here, and the second one was really the story of KISS in Japan was not really well known outside of Japan, because most people can't read Japanese.
True.
And they had no idea of what had happened, and there was very little information available. So the idea for the book was let the rest of the KISS world, let all the other KISS fans know how KISS was seen and perceived in Japan. So I translated a lot of articles, a lot of documentation, a lot of little known facts that pretty much nobody knew. Like for example, in 1975, the record company did also a KISS contest in Japan, which completely bombed. But there were all these little tidbits and minutia and trivia KISS related for the tours of KISS in Japan.
Okay.
And there's a big interest about Japanese items for KISS collectors. So it was a big hit, I must say.
Oh yeah, still is these days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also going back to what KISS means to you and what KISS means to us, I think we've all gotten to a point. You mentioned, Alan, you writing books, us doing podcasts, people doing tribute bands. In a sense, we want to be part of this phenomenon, don't we? We want to be a part of KISStory somehow, have that connection with the fans and with the band. Is that the way you feel about writing your books?
In a way, I suppose, yes. But it's also, I think, because of we can't get enough of KISS, and we're not going to get it from the record company or management. It seems. I mean, they do what they can, but they always have a business perspective in mind. and we fans, we think with our hearts mostly. So we're going to go out of the way and create a book about Kiss in Japan. Who would do that but a Kiss fan? So yeah, we create Kiss stuff because we can't get enough, even though they have saturated the market on many things. But yeah, we seem to always want more. Like I said, it's a mental condition. It's really a mania.
It's true, so true.
It really is, and it's something that I think, like you said before, as a Kiss fan, we're trying to figure out why. So I want to go back to your book. There is a quote from the Evansville Press, 1974, that reads, "Kiss relied heavily on vampire makeup, fire-eating effects, rockets, bombs, and fog to make their acts sell. And if those aren't enough, try flashing lights, elevating stages, more flashing lights, and a morsel or two of stage blood just to sweeten things up. And if you didn't dig the show, you could always listen to the music, which wasn't so bad." Now, it's interesting because looking back in your book, the 1974 photos, it's really obvious that Kiss was hungry, and they would do anything to make it, and obviously they did. In your opinion, in those days, do you feel that Kiss was nothing more than just a gimmick band where music really took the show took a back seat to the music?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Kiss was and still is a hardworking band. They were a great band with good songs and with a gimmick. And what a gimmick. I mean, the makeup was something else. And a lot of people stopped at the makeup.
Yeah.
Like the reviewer says, you know, the music is not so bad. Well, he talks about the makeup first, and then he talks about the music. But a lot of people just stopped at the makeup, I feel. In 1974, there weren't very elaborate costumes yet. So I think it was easy for the press to talk about it and to criticize and to Phil Collins. But and also remember, in 74, they were an opening band. They only play maybe 35, 40 minutes. So yeah, the audience is not going to remember the solo on Nothing to Lose. They will remember, wow, the bass player was breathing fire and spit blood. That's the first thing they will think of. But like they said, and like I said earlier, it was a hardworking band with good songs. That's what I remember, and I want to feel that where Kiss was in 1974. And also remember, they talk about gimmick, but of course the makeup was Kiss's idea, but everything else, you know, the flashing logo, the fire breathing, the blood, that came from management. It was Bill O'Coin's idea, right? To breathe fire. It was not Gene's at first. So they were just struggling musicians trying to sell records. And the gimmick was so good that, yeah, a lot of people talked about it. But first and foremost, in my opinion, they were just a rock band at first.
I remember as a kid, I remember saying, you know, Kiss music is amazing. And I'm telling people in the schoolyard this and going to me, the music sucks. I go for the show, you know? So, and now, you know, almost 50 years later, those fans are still around. Kiss is still around.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe it's possible that it was necessary to draw the fans in first through the show, through the spectacle, so that once that the fans are in, then they can start exploring the music a little bit more? And maybe that's why Kiss endured for so long. What do you think?
Well, it's undeniable that the makeup and the image was drawing a lot of people's attention. But yeah, I think people they came for the like me, to be honest, I was 5 or 6 years old, and I came for the image and I stayed for the sound.
Right.
So yeah, of course, you know, once you are attracted to get the record, you look at the cover, but then you listen to the songs, and yes, they're catchy. Well, I'm not going, you know, you're preaching to the choir. I love the song. So of course I'm going to say the music is great, of course.
But you know, what's interesting is that, you know, that the pairing of the music with the image is perfect. You know, of course we're Kiss fans, so what else are we going to say? But I mean, when you listen to the Kiss songs, so you listen to Destroyer or Love Gun, and it's not Gene Simmons singing, it's the Demon, right? So it's not Paul Stanley, it's the Star Child. So it's really, really a genius thing that they did to connect the music with the image. So not every band can do that. And, I'm talking about gimmick. I think that during those times, there was a lot of glam rock going around. We had Alice Cooper and all those guys. But I think that Kiss, they took it to the extreme. So they didn't care, what people were going to say. So they just went for it. So they didn't take any prisoners.
Right.
Yeah, and they've been imitated a lot, but you have to give them credit. There was never a band like Kiss before Kiss, and there will never be another band like Kiss after them. They left that mark forever, and like them or hate them, but they're unique, and maybe that's another reason why we love them.
It's true. Alan, so I'm going to go with something from the Charleston Gazette in 1975 that reads, Kiss is weird. It's hard to know exactly what to make of Kiss, so they sometimes act as if they are not quite sure what their instruments are for. So, yeah,
but
go ahead.
You have to finish the quote. He says, but when they play them, it's obvious they do.
Okay, there you go. So that gives me the excellent, path to what I was going to say. So with the release of Dress to Kill, so Neil Bogart wanted to have something more radio friendly. Okay, so which I think goes to show that Kiss didn't really have a direction that they wanted their music to go, and we all know that. So they were more focused on the show. But do you really agree with that agreement? Do you think that they didn't know where they were going? So they were taking any direction that the management was telling them to do?
I wouldn't. No, I would not. I wouldn't say that. Well, you have to remember they recorded Dress to Kill early '75. They've been together as a recording band for a year. They're newbies. They've released 2 albums, yes, and I know they got together in '73, but really they've only been a recording act for a year. So they have a direction. I think that Dress to Kill fits perfectly with the other 2. And yes, Neil Bogart, well, his main primary concern is to sell records, and Bill O'Coin wants to pay the bill. So of course they're going to try to be a little bit more radio friendly. But She is not a radio friendly song; it's a heavy song, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, they have short. The format is really short. "Come On and Love Me" would have been a great single to succeed. It didn't, but it's like a 3-minute chorus, verse, chorus, solo. It's a fantastic. I love "Come On and Love Me," in case you didn't realize. So yeah, actually, I remember a Japanese journalist quote who's at the time of Dress to Kill. It says, I think it was in June '75 when the album came out here. He says, Kiss is trying to score a top 40 hit with a hard and heavy sound. Good luck with that. Yeah. Was the quote. And they said if they don't succeed, their career may be over. And Rock and Roll All Night is kind of succeeded. I think it hit the top 40. It is kind of poppy and commercial-ish but still being a good rock song. So yeah, at that time it's the 3rd album, but they're still a very, very new band. So they're very young too. So if your manager and your record company president tells you do this and do that, of course they will do it. But yeah, I don't think it's a big change from the first album.
It's true. It is true. It's still in the same venue and same direction, but they were desperate, and they were not selling enough records, so they wanted to do anything to make it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a perfectly acceptable solution when you're hungry. Yeah.
When you're in business. Yeah.
Yeah.
The sign of a great book like this one, The On Tour, is that we're doing what we're doing right now. We're having this amazing conversation, analyzing the band and seeing why we love the band so much, and taking apart the minutia of what it means to be a Kiss fan, and the band itself. For example, here's another quote from Best in 1976. Marvel Comics, superheroes inspired several movies and books. Kiss used them to create a rock and roll band, each member with its own powers and specific talents, assembled in a team for the great adventure on stage. Spitting fire or killing monsters, they're all heroes just the same. Now, at this point, I think around 1976, right, Kiss was becoming larger than life, being compared to superheroes. And no, we were talking about in the previous question, did Kiss have a direction where they wanted to go with the music, or was it directed by management? And now, in terms of the Kiss persona and image, was this something directed by the band, or was this due to public perception? In other words, the superhero idea came from the public and the media, and the band just went with it. Do you agree with that assessment?
I don't. Let's see. Well, I have to say I was surprised when I found that quote in '76 in a French magazine. Yeah, it's. I don't remember Marvel Comics being that popular in France or in Europe. I was living in Belgium at the time, and Marvel Comics was not what it is now. With the movies and all that,
Yeah.
and they're everywhere. No, in '76 it was kind of still an underground thing, especially in Europe. And I think there's a bit of French disdain when he mentions Marvel Comics in that article. That once again we talk mostly about the image here and not the music, and it's perhaps used to ridicule and look down on Kiss a little. And also in the press at that time, they're not superheroes, they're comic book villains. They look scary and they look menacing, and it's kind of a dark, negative image. They're villains, they're not heroes. So that's also important, I think, to point out. I remember also reading in the first press kit, Ace Frehley is already a spaceman very early on, and Gene is evil incarnate. Peter Criss is kind of in the middle. Paul Stanley we still don't know what he is. Right. At some point he's love, and then he's the love object. The Star Child comes out really late in the history, maybe 77-ish, I think. Well, of course, for the movie. So I think they played on being larger than life characters very early on, like I said in the first press kit. But the comic book villain, could have been coined by the press. Although you have the very early Cream magazine photonovela where the band, they go in, they're dressed in costumes and they go in the phone booth and they come out as comic book characters. So that's very early on, and that's created by the band. So I think everything just meshed really nicely. The press probably played the big role, but then of course Bill O'Coin with the way he was presenting the band and the way that they were creating new costumes and having each band being important. I think they played off each other really, really well, and it became the mania that we're still talking about.
Yeah.
It's as I'm listening to you guys, I cannot believe that we're having this conversation actually, and to me that makes the book even more interesting. Having this kind of conversation with you, Alain. So once again, we wanted to thank you, for being here with us and making yourself available to have this kind of discussion, because it would have been easier to go through the book, and explain the process, how you created, but you did that already. So to me, this approach Pask decided to take on the interview, it's fantastic. So I wanted to thank you for that.
No, my pleasure. I love talking about Kiss. It's one of my favorite subjects. So
absolutely amazing.
we can do that the whole day.
So this one, the next one, it's coming from Paul Stanley in the Tokyo Press Conference, 1977.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul, at that time, he said, "We have a chance to live our fantasies. Everyone in the audience wishes they could look the way we do and express themselves the way we do. So we leave our audience's fantasies for them." So I guess we all agree that KISS at that time was at the height of their success. So they became the embodiment of freedom, of living life the way we choose, to let go of their inhibitions. So do you believe this was achieved through their music, stage performance, or both?
Well, I want to go back to that quote because it's a great quote from Paul Stanley. It's at the Tokyo Press Conference, and let me give you a little backstory about it.
Okay,
I've listened to that tape a million times, as you can imagine. So the journalist asks, why do you wear makeup? Why do you hide your real faces? And Gene immediately answers, "Oh, because we're too beautiful." And everybody starts laughing. You know, we're too handsome, we're too beautiful. Ha 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 ha. And then Paul says Paul jumps in and says, on a more serious note, that's where the quote is. We are living fantasies, and our fans live their fantasies through us, and they want to do the way we do. And it's a great quote on many levels. To put it in perspective, at the time, you know, in Japan, they created quite an impression in Japan. You know, kids were wearing makeup. You know, Japan is a very strict and rigid society.
Yeah,
still is at some point, even though there is, of course, big underground now, and it's not as bad as it used to be. But basically, it still is quite rigid. And in the 70s, I can't imagine how more it was. I wasn't here yet. But kids were putting makeup on, were going to the shows in makeup, and they wanted to stop studying and wanted to focus on rock and roll and learn to play the guitar. And so in a way, his quote here is saying, you know, we created something huge, and everyone wants to be a part of it, and they are inspired by the way we look, and they want to do the same as we do, which is feel free and do whatever they want. I think if you put it in context at the time, it's a great quote for the phenomenon that KISS in Japan is in 77. And I guess still now, like we said, you know, people make podcasts, people write books, people play in tribute bands. We all want to feel a little bit that we're part of KISS.
Yeah, and actually it has, I think at that time, if you put it into perspective, it has a connotation that has to do with the social, right, way of living in Japan. And what KISS did at having kids put on the makeup and stuff, it's a big change, you know, for people that are not used to feel that free. Let me put it that way. That's a significant change, you know, for not only for teenagers but for everybody, right?
Yep, that's right.
So, Alan, one thing I love about your book is that you end every era with a scrapbook portion. And I love going through every single detail in there with, you know, the fine tooth comb. That's
the spirit. Yes.
Oh my God.
That's what you have to. That's what you have to do.
Oh yeah, it's not something.
And you will find some great gems if you look carefully.
Yeah,
every time.
Yeah, you got to go back over and over and over again. It's really something else. But what I found interesting, you know, at the end of the 77, 78 scrapbook portion of the book, I found this really funny quote by a Randy Bartimus, which reads, really obscure: "Dear Santa, I would like a KISS doll of Peter Criss and Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley doll and necklace of KISS Alive 2, and a record of Love Gun, a KISS belt buckle, and 6 KISS posters." It was very tiny in there, very tiny in there. So, reading this, I'm thinking to myself, was this the beginning of their downward spiral in a sense? KISS now is trying to attract kids and parents, and it was mentioned in several interviews, it became a circus. Now, KISS must have known that this was the case. And, why didn't they try to circumvent this circus before it got any worse? Any ideas on that?
Well, I'm going to play the devil's advocate again here. I think you have to realize, if I'm not mistaken, that circus line and that we became Vegas line and all that came in the 90s at the time of Revenge, when they were promoting like a badass heavy metal band type of feel, and they would say, "Oh yeah, Dynasty was a mistake," and they looked like a Vegas show. But when you market lunchboxes and colorform sets and Viewmaster reels and Mego dolls, what do you expect to attract? Of course, it's going to be kids. And I was a kid myself when I got into KISS, and I kind of resent when they say, "Well, we became a kids band." Well, yeah, thank God you became a kids band. A kids band. I started loving you because of that at that age. So of course if you market extra small or pajamas, of course you're going to attract kids. So they knew exactly what they were doing at the time, and it made, I guess, business sense. Now, of course, if they have regrets or remorse later, perhaps, but I don't think they should have been so critical of that band, because they knew exactly what they were doing. Like I said, if you market Mego dolls, you're trying to attract little kids. Going back to that quote is actually the letters section of a newspaper. So it's a kid's letter to Santa.
Yeah.
And there are more. There's another one said, Dear Santa, I would like a KISS doll of Ace Frehley and Peter Criss and Paul Stanley, and KISS necklace and KISS Alive 2, and 8 KISS posters and a Star Wars collection, and KISS Alive 2 and KISS Alive, and double platinum, and some candy, and a solo of jeans, Paul and Peter and Ace, and 5 KISS shirts, and a KISS Love Gun, and 5 KISS t-shirts of KISS Destroyer. Love you, Karen. How can you not love a letter to the editor? And there are 3 of them, so 3 letters to Santa. And what do they want? Kiss, 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 kiss. Star Wars, kiss, 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 kiss.
Yeah.
It shows, what. Of course they were targeting kids. Of course they were.
I know they targeted this kid. I got into KISS in 1976. Saw my first KISS concert in 1979 during the circus days. I didn't see it that way. I thought they were amazing. I loved the costumes.
Let me tell you, if KISS should be praised for anything, it would be how they opened the doors of rock concerts and record stores for kids.
Yeah.
It used to be for teenagers, but with kids, no. The 5-6-year-old wanted the record, and they wanted the concert ticket to see KISS. And they've opened a huge market for young kids, little kids, who had maybe an older brother and older sisters. I know I did. They had records and they wanted to go to shows. Well, I was 5 and 6, and guess what? I wanted to buy records, and I wanted to see KISS in concerts. KISS, 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 KISS. They've really had a huge influence, I think, on that. And I don't think anyone's mentioning ever that. What's wrong with having kids at a rock concert? You don't like it? Well, too bad.
Right.
Because kids are people too.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I believe
that was a KISS reference.
Oh yeah, we got that. We got that.
I know you did.
Oh my God. And just for the record, this is just a personal opinion. We as diehard fans, we tend to believe, and when we actually read every single word that they say, either Paul or Gene or Ace or Peter, and I think that this is just a way of trying to market their current, let's say, product. So what I mean by this is that what I find maybe it's a mistake is that they regret on things that they did in the past to promote the present. Okay, so for instance, criticizing Peter and Ace, and blah blah blah. But deep in my heart, I know that none of them regret of what they did in the past. Not even Paul or Gene or anything, because they created an empire based on what they did in the 70s. So they couldn't be. I don't think that we're gonna buy a lot of merch of the revenge era, right? So I don't think so. So it's all based on the 70s, right? So why criticize, what they did for kids or anything? It's just, sometimes we take things for granted.
And when I think about it, those letters to Santa, you go to some Facebook groups, collectors, and people have the exact same wish list right now.
Right, exactly. Yeah, of course.
And you're right. When they were promoting revenge and that heavy metal image, I guess they felt they had to say it. But you're probably right. They probably didn't actually really feel, but they probably wanted to. It probably felt the right thing to say.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yes,
we know better.
Yeah. That's right. So, Alan, here's the next one from the Seattle Times, 1979. So it reads, KISS outdid itself this time. The outrageous comic book quarter has so many new gimmicks. There was something happening every minute. The audience was an interesting one. There probably were more parents there with kids than at any other rock show. So, as Pask said before, here is where we start to turn things around. So it was said that at this point, KISS went too far. The question is, did they? So did everything that happened in their career need to happen in order for the band to be where they are now? What do you think?
Yeah, we can't rewrite history or KISStory. If there was ever a time, we go back to the 1974 quote you mentioned, was KISS a gimmick first and a band second? Yeah. If there was any time, it would perhaps have been Dynasty, because there's a lot of talk about the show, about the costume, about the pyrotechnics, the special effects, and very little about the songs or the music, even from the band at that point. They're concerned about their colors and what they're going to look like and how big the show is. And there were a lot of tensions, of course, we know now, the personnel and personal issues. And I remember a quote from Ace in a magazine. He said, if I do a great solo and the pyro doesn't work, people are unhappy. But if I do a crappy solo and the pyro works, people love it.
Yeah.
And that's very telling that at that time, really the music, very few people were talking about the music, even the band members. It was just about the show and how big it is and all that. So, yeah, I guess they were pushing, they wanted to make it bigger than the Alive 2 Love Gun stage. And how can you? Well, you can, but there's a moment where you just can't. What else are you going to do? So I think they hit that at Dynasty. All the stories we heard about the lasers and all kind of they were just spending a lot of money on the show. The music, Dynasty was double platinum, I think, but it's only 9 songs, and they were having a lot of personal issues at the time. So I guess it had to crash at some point. And I think the point is Dynasty or the Dynasty tour. Yeah, but even though they do look great and they sound kind they sound good, but the overall impression is that the show has taken over and not much attention is paid to music.
It is true.
Opinion.
It is true, and it's nice that you mentioned the tour itself, because we're not talking about the album, but that same album actually opened the door for them, huge in Australia. You know, it was huge in South America, even, you know, in some countries in Europe.
Definitely.
So maybe it was the downward in the US, you know, but in some other parts of the world, it was fantastic. It was the best time.
Dynasty. Well, my first album was Dynasty, and
Yeah.
I could say I discovered, fell in love, or became obsessed, whatever you want to say, with Kiss, with I Was Made for Loving You.
Yeah, that's right.
I saw the video, and the music, the song is catchy as hell. It was playing on the radio all the time here, not here, back in Belgium where I lived. It was number one in the summer. So yeah, of course, Dynasties was a huge album for them.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm talking about the
tour itself. Yeah.
How they had become a business, a money making machine more than a band.
Yeah.
I think at that point, and that's where the problem was. I think in retrospect, 40 years later, not having been there, but just analyzing bits and pieces, which is what we love to do.
So here's another quote from an unknown source back in 1980. Kiss pulls a sly one. Kiss debuted its now drummer Eric Carr during a one-night stand at the Palladium in New York before embarking on a European tour. Brooklyn-born Carr, who replaced Peter Criss, appeared on stage in the character of a fox. I remember back in the days, pre-internet, we got our information through magazines. And when I heard that the Fox took over the Peter Criss character, I wanted to learn everything about the Fox. And I remember one of the magazines I took, and I started memorizing facts about Eric Carr. That was really my first introduction to the new drummer. What were some of your earliest memories of Eric Carr?
Very earliest memory was my elder brother telling me Peter Criss left and there's a new drummer and his name is Eric Carr, and I was just Peter Criss was my favorite member at the time. I was was interested in playing the drums, and he kind of looked really cool. But yeah, when I learned there was a new drummer, and he I don't think I saw a picture of him until weeks or months later, but I thought he looked cool as hell, and I immediately loved him. So wow, the luckiest guy on earth. He's drumming for Kiss, and he has a new makeup, and it's amazing. Yeah. Wow. As a little kid, what else do you know? Yeah. My first memory of Eric Carr was he's the new drummer, and he's the luckiest guy on earth. Very fond memories.
A lovely character, Eric. So you know, it's I think it fit perfectly at that time, and it's interesting. So there's a lot, of course, Peter Criss fans, but you know, but there's also a lot of Eric Carr's fans. You know, it's a big member. You know, big part of KISStory, big time. Yeah.
I remember Kiss constantly pushing the fact that it's not about Gene, Paul, Peter, and Ace, but it's about the characters. So I remember when Peter left, sorry, Kiss fans, I didn't care. Here is another cool character that came into the band, and he's just as cool as Peter, just as, you know, it was mystical. There was a mystery behind him. I want to know everything about him. It was somebody new to discover. And I just loved that about his new entry into the band.
Yeah, same here. I agree. Yeah. The next one, it's from Kerrang in 1983. This is an interesting one. So it reads, determined to restore both crunch and credibility, the tour, showcasing a 60-foot wide tank stage set, has seen the band dispensing significantly harder material to a significantly older audience. True. So the latter need more convincing now, more hardline persuasion that this particular party hasn't run out of pretzels, but at least it remains readily conversant with the Kiss name legend. So what do you think, Alan? Isn't it possible that Kiss tanked on this tour because there were no new fans, just the diehards? So the older fans who were at this point disenfranchised?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. We know the attendance numbers were not that good at all. So you can easily imagine that whoever was attending were the younger kids who had become teenagers, who were, like I said, harder to persuade, reminiscing or knowing about the KISS name and legend, but wanting something a bit harder than the last Vegas show they attended. And were they attracting new people? Probably not, since there were a lot of empty seats and there was a lot of fierce competition in hard rock heavy metal at that time.
Oh yeah. And
KISS was seen already as an old band, which is in hindsight is ridiculous, but that was the time. At the time, they were like already considered as passé.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the Creatures of the Night Tour was at you said it tanked. That's a nice pun. It looked great on paper. You know, it was the 10th year anniversary, and they promoted it and hyped it as a 100 date show. It only did 50. You know, for various reasons.
Yeah.
I think a lot of writers have analyzed the reasons why 83 was not a good year for touring and all that. So yeah, it's a fair quote or fair description of the sad state they were in at the time.
Points I want to make. Number one, it's interesting that we're having a discussion about KISS through these quotes. Alan, I couldn't find one negative quote about KISS in this book.
Oh, well, let me you read one then, since you're asking.
Oh, there is one? I couldn't find one.
Here's the challenge.
There is one, because it's so bad that I just loved reading it, and I put it in almost. The guy just hated everything. So the title you just sets the tone. Says, "Mime makeup doesn't hide KISS's miserable music."
Oh.
And then he says, "The 4 members of KISS never perform without surrealistic mime makeup. I don't blame them. If I played music as miserably as they do, I would want to be these guys too." And it says, the KISS's performance managed to chalk up the 4 big T's: tacky, tawdry, tasteless, and trite. Their makeup and bodysuits were tacky. Their light, fire, and explosive shows were tawdry. Their posturing tasteless, and the music trite. Ouch. And it goes on and on and on and on about everything he hated about the show. It's fantastic how bad it is. So there is one bad quote. There were many negative reviews, but again, I love KISS. The people who wanted the book love KISS. We've read enough bad reviews, and I was not trying to be objective or having a social study of KISS on tour. I just wanted to celebrate and show my love for KISS. So of course it's mostly positive, insightful, and good quotes.
And let me tell you that this book is a perfect testimony that we won. Even though there's a lot of bad reviews, we won at the end of the day.
Right.
Yes, we did.
But the thing is, I mean, we've been talking about positive reviews throughout this entire podcast, and we're not criticizing, but dissecting the band and KISStory and fandom. We're not doing it in a negative way. Just because we're diehards doesn't mean we love everything. We don't have to love everything, but it's not necessarily a critique. It's just an opinion. We're not putting anybody down. I think that's the beauty of these quotes in this book. It really is for diehards. It really is.
Oh yes, absolutely. If I could paraphrase KISS, it's the book I've always wanted to read. So there you go.
Exactly.
There you go. You got it.
Now going back to the quote that Claudio just read, it also brings back what you said earlier, Alan, that KISS knew what they were doing when they were bringing in kids into the band, because they have to continue to bring in the younger generation in order for KISS to continue on. because if the fans just keep getting older, at one point they're going to die off, and Kiss would not have lasted as long as they've lasted now.
I suppose at that time you want to attract as many people as you want, and I really don't think there was really much marketing thought into it. They were just a band trying to put out records. But look, those 7, 8, 9-year-old kids in the 70s, 20 years later, 30 years later, their 40s, their 50s, they spend 5Ks for a 3-minute meet and greet. So I think they did pretty well. You know, they had such an incredible luck to have the reunion tour 20 years later when those little kids were professionals, and then they have the end of the road 20 years after that when people are even maybe better off professionally and financially. They've had the dream career in a way. You know, another quote from Gene Simmons, he said, I think, we may not have been the biggest band or the most popular, but we sure had the most fun. Mm-hmm. And I think he's right. I think everybody secretly wishes they had been in Kiss.
Oh, yeah, true.
Perfect quote. So, Alan, this has been such an interesting discussion. You know, I remember when I first started doing this podcast earlier on, I said that, you know, I'm not a person that really studies KISStory. I'm not a KISStorian. I'm not really into the minutia. But, you know, this book for me really brought out my love for the minutia. It's there. This book just brought it out. How can it not? How can you not go back and reminisce on the KISStory of the band? And the way your book is outlined, you're forced to look at every little detail, you know? And it just, and now this discussion that we're having on this podcast, talking to you, Alan, it brings this book to life. It's really, really an amazing thing. And
well, thank you. You've selected great quotes, and it's a pleasure discussing with you.
It's fantastic.
The two of you.
Thank you. So, you know, for me, in my opinion, again, like I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, for me, this book is a moment in time to help us relive moments in KISStory. But that's me. My question to you is, to wrap up this episode, why did you write this book? What do you want the fans to get out of this book?
The simple answer is because I love Kiss, and I wanted to give my fellow Kiss fans a cool book to look at. I think that was the main reason. That's the first 10 years are fascinating. I think we all have a deep love and curiosity about 1974 to 1983, and it was just my way of expressing my love for Kiss in a different way than not just Japan, but the Kiss on tour. I'm very, very pleased with the result, I must say.
Well, let me tell you, you should be, because it's a fantastic, piece of art. It's I'm a big reader of KISStory, and I like going into the minutia and all the stuff, and dissecting albums and specific years in KISStory. But let me tell you, Alan, that going through this book, it was like a wake up call, So the approach that you took on this book is fantastic. It's something that I've never been exposed to before, because it's not facts. It's not a chronological kind of thing. It takes you back in time, and it makes you feel that you're living, those years, even if you were not there. It's a fantastic. So I have no words to thank you, for what you created and for being part of the show with us tonight.
Thank you very much. You said it. You said it's a piece of art. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's very nice. Very nice compliment. I've had some really touching, heartwarming feedback about it from all over the world. Really, some people love it and they consider it as a collectible or a piece of art, but others have reached out to me and said, you can delve into it deeply and read every word on every page, or you can just flip through it. And I like to look at it for 5 minutes on a break from work, or I like to really relax and read it after a long day's work. Someone else said they read a few pages before going to sleep and it makes them smile.
Yeah.
Someone said it was an antidepressant. So, it made me smile. It's like a KISS concert, another KISS quote. You forget about your problems if you forget about your boss, your homework, the traffic jam, or if you have a narcissistic sociopath ex-girlfriend harassing you, you forget about it. You enjoy the book. And if my book just gives so much satisfaction, happiness, makes people smile, take a little stress out of their life, that's the ultimate compliment. So,
that's gratifying. So let me ask you, did it exceed your expectations now that you're getting feedback from fans and,
It's a good question. Honestly, while I was working on it, I discovered stuff that I didn't expect I would discover. So I was getting really excited as I was working on it. I was like, oh my God, this photo. Oh my God, this photo. Oh my God, this photo. So when the book was being finalized, I said, this is going to be fantastic. I just hope people buy it, because, no matter how hard you try, you always have stress about whether people will be interested or not. Even if now it's sold out and I've done 5 books and it's a no-brainer now, but when you do it, you don't know. Every work, every investment is a big risk, and I took a very big risk on this one. But as work was progressing and I was getting a lot of unique and cool stuff never being published, photos from Brazil, from Belgium, I knew I had something that looked really, really good.
Special.
And yes. And, the feedback has been phenomenal, and I couldn't be happier with the result and how everybody loved it. So thank you, everyone.
You deserve it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I think it's incredible that, as diehard KISS fans, I mentioned this in previous podcasts, we think we know it all. We think we've seen it all. But then a book like this comes out and it didn't even scratch the surface.
Right.
There's so much that we haven't seen, so many amazing pictures. And when we go through this book, we're like in awe in some of the pictures that are in there that, we've seen for the very first time.
Yeah. And, I guess, Paz, you're going to agree with me, but when it comes from a fan, it has even more value than when it comes from the band itself. It's not a product of the band. It comes from a fan. So that it comes from the heart.
Absolutely. So, Alan, I think I could speak for Claudio and myself. I want to thank you very much again for being on the show and bringing this book to life for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You brought it. We brought it to life. Thanks to your excellent quote selection and very fun discussion. So I thank both of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
So, to the KISS Army, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And remember, never stop rocking. Take care, everyone. The KISS Army Nation podcast has partnered up with Click T-Shop to offer our listeners a high-quality T-shirt with graphic design by Xander Graphics. Check out Click T-Shop at clickteeshop.com.